All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the life and work of one of Britain's most unforgettable literary figures, Kingsley Amis.
So, here's a question for you. How exactly does one person's writing manage to capture the entire mood, the whole feeling of an era?
Well, for a Britain trying to find its feet after World War II, a big part of the answer was Kingsley Amis. He gave people a voice that was sharp, incredibly funny, and just brutally honest. And get this, he wasn't just a novelist, he was also a poet and a brilliant critic, a real triple threat. So let's unpack what made him so special.
To really get Amis, you have to start with his incredible satirical eye. You could almost say it was his literary superpower.
You see, Amis looked at the world around him, the rigid class system, all the anxieties about who you were supposed to be, the whole shebang, and he just saw how absurd it all was. He used his wit like a surgeon's scalpel, perfectly dissecting all the layers of British life and pretension.
And if you want to see that in action, look no further than the book that made him a household name. Let's talk about his 1954 game changer, Lucky Jim.
Our hero, and I use that term loosely, is Jim Dixon. He's this young history lecturer who is completely out of his element, just totally fed up with the pompous, stuffy world of academia he's found himself in. For a whole generation feeling like the old rules didn't fit anymore, this guy was a total breath of fresh air.
At its core, Jim's story is all about rebellion. Sometimes quiet, sometimes not so quiet. It actually helped kickstart a whole literary movement, the Angry Young Men, which was all about post-war frustration with the establishment. Through one hilarious disaster after another, Jim is basically fighting his own little war against everything he's expected to be. And that perfect mix of laugh-out-loud funny moments with razor-sharp commentary, that's what made Lucky Jim an absolute classic right out of the gate. It didn't just make Amis's career, it announced that a major new voice had arrived, and he was not afraid to make fun of anyone. But here's the thing about Amis. He was absolutely not a one-trick pony. The guy seemed determined to never be put in a box. His range as a writer was, well, it was just staggering. So let's take a quick spin through some of his other incredible books. Okay, just look at the variety here. It's pretty wild. First up, you've got The Alteration, an alternate history novel that asks, what if the Protestant Reformation never happened? Then he pivots to The Green Man, a straight-up horror comedy about a haunted pub. And then he goes and wins the super prestigious Booker Prize for The Old Devils, which is this funny but also deeply moving book about old friends getting older. I mean, sci-fi, horror, literary fiction, the man could do it all. He also turned that sharp eye of his outward, In One Fat Englishman, he takes on the classic Brits abroad idea, exploring what happens when a totally out-of-his-element English publisher goes to America. It is as hilarious as it is painfully insightful. And even when he was writing about really tough subjects, he never lost that dark comedic edge. Ending Up is a perfect example. It follows a group of elderly friends as they face their own mortality. Amis somehow finds both the humor and the real heartbreak in their final years.
So, when you look at all of this huge, diverse body of work, what's his real legacy? I mean, why are we still talking about Kingsley Amis all these years later?
I think this quote right here really nails it. It wasn't just that he was funny. It was that he used that humor to show us some deep and, often uncomfortable truths about ourselves. That blend of wit and wisdom, that's the magic of Amis. And that's exactly why he still feels so relevant. The things he wrote about, class, identity, getting older, feeling like an outsider, those things are timeless, right? His books are like this powerful and, again, hilarious lens we can still use to look at our own weird, complicated world. Which really leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? If Kingsley Amis were writing today, what would he go after? What parts of our 21st century lives are just begging for that sharp satirical pen of his? Something to think about. Thanks for joining this Explainer.